Hi everyone, it's Sherry Dunleavy, your Inspirationista, and today I was speaking to a group about grief in the workplace, and I thought this would be a great time for me to share part of that message with you. Because sometimes when we think of people who are going through a difficulty in life and grieving, whether it is the death of someone that they love or whether it's the death of their marriage, whether it is a diagnosis of a terminal illness that they might have just received, or whether they're caring for someone, or perhaps someone who has lost a job. There are so many different things that people grieve the loss of, and we don't actually see it as being grief. And when we do think that it's grief, we think that grief looks like sadness. We think that grief looks like crying. We think that grief looks like depression, maybe even anger. And those are all correct. But grief also displays itself in so many other ways. And quite frankly, if you're working with someone, you might not see those things because they put their best face on when they come to work. They don't want you to see them crying. They don't want you to see them struggling. But grief takes a toll on your physical body. It takes a toll on your emotional sense and state. It takes a toll on so much that a lot of people don't realize that these are some other signs of grief. So I'm going to go over a few with you just so that you can be a little bit more aware of what you're seeing is actually someone that's grieving, okay? So the first one is a lack of concentration. People who are going through grief and who are struggling a lot of times have like this fog that covers them and covers their thought process, that just seems to cover their life, cover the way they even see the world. So sometimes they lose focus, they lose concentration, they are disoriented, they are forgetful, they have low energy. It's just like they're trying to get through this mud and muck. That's kind of how it feels. You're just trying to see, like you're not in the Caribbean snorkeling, you're in the Ohio River and it's muddy and murky and you're trying to make your way, but you just can't make sense of it and you can't see your way out. Maybe that's a better way to describe it, but it shows up when people can't concentrate in a meeting, or when they lose their focus on something, or where they're always seeming to forget something that, we really shouldn't be forgetting. Keep in mind that those could be a sign of grief. Also, having a difficult time making a decision. I still have trouble deciding where I want to go to dinner a lot of Friday nights. And so it can be the simplest decision that you just have a very difficult time making, or any kind of decision. When you lose maybe a significant other, you have to start thinking about, am I still going to be able to live in the same house? Do I have to move somewhere else? I mean, some major life decisions, and you're having a very difficult time maneuvering through life, let alone making any kinds of decisions. Also, as I said, there's changes in appetite. So you might see someone gaining weight. You might see someone kind of whittling away. You might see someone who is just constantly tired. And that could be because a lot of times when you're in the throes of grief, you're up in the middle of the night and your mind's just doing this. It's just constantly running through so many different things. You can see people excessively worrying about another family member or about their finances. They just seem to be hyper-focused on this. Also a sense of grief. And another thing is illness. After I lost my son, Brandon, I really wasn't sick, although a lot of people seem to get whatever comes down the pike. They're just constantly sick as they are grieving. What happened to me was that I was carrying the grief in my back, and I had a slow leaking disc. And you want to talk about a message. In my sleep on Mother's Day, I sneezed and my disc exploded. So I was really incapacitated then and had to have emergency surgery. So, illness and injury can happen a lot of times to people as they're grieving. And so I want you to be aware that sometimes, we think people should be further along in their journey than what they really are. But grief there's no timeline. There's no timeline and there's no time limit. And so we need to be there to support them. And the more we know about what the signs look like, I think it might be helpful to all of us that we can take a look at these, at what's going on with someone in the workplace, one of our colleagues, and we can say, you know what? I think I might be able to help and support that person in some small way. Or how can we come together as a community and do that, as a work community and do that? And that's what I'll talk about next time. But for now, I just wanted to share some of those signs and symptoms of what grief really can look like in the workplace. I'm Sherry Dunlevy, and if you'd like more information on my How Can I Help workshops coming to your business, organization, or school system, please reach out to me at sherrydunlevy.com.